Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. Welcome to Fahad's tutorial once again, and this video is one of the basic and most important chapter of biology. Student of English versions, Cadet college, and from any levels that are watching this tutorial, you must know that this chapter is like an ocean, and here the content that is described actually individually it's something like a big and to understand this chapter properly, I am thinking to upload some series of videos which will be synchronizing with the sequential things and following the syllabus, because actually you see the topic is food, nutrition and digestions. These three words means like a big. So first we need to understand what is food, what is the process of digestions when we engulf foods and when we take foods, and how it's processing into our body, and also the nutritions. So as the title of the chapter is these three words, we need to understand the content which is actually explained following the books. But there are a lot of other things that should be discussed, and I'm coming up with these tutorials next. See the main content. We need to know that plant mineral nutrition. So why it's titled as plant mineral nutrition? As because plants are taking nutrient substance like a lot of things which is coming from the soil, through water and from the atmosphere. 2. Symptoms of nutritional deficiencies. So this is something big. In your book, if you see that there were some enlisted components, and for the deficiencies, what are the symptoms which is expressed after, this is something like we need to practice more and more to understand the symptoms of nutrition deficiencies. Like what are the deficiency symptoms? A lacking of nitrogen, phosphorus, sulfur, calcium, iron, zinc, molybdenum, copper, like this. So that should be another class, different class. 3. Food ingredients. In this point, you know that food ingredients are like carbohydrate, protein, fat, minerals, water, fiber. So carbohydrate, protein, fat, these three are main. Then minerals, vitamins, water and fiber. Next part. So I will explain these 6 food ingredients in another class. 4. Ideal food pyramid. So in this pyramid, when we will discuss about ideal food pyramid, you think about that in the lower level, there is carbohydrate, and then vitamins and minerals, and then proteins, and then fat. So the consumptions of different food ingredients depends that which one should be our priority. So definitely it depends on area, geographical area, peoples, and a lot of other variations too. So ideal food pyramid is another content of this top chapter. Balanced diet, so important. Vitamin deficiencies, disease. So in this case we need to understand about goiter, rickets, anemia, kwashiorkor, so marasmus. So vitamin deficiency disease, there are some disease, there are a lot of disease actually regarding the vitamin deficiencies, but following the books we need to understand 4 to 5 diseases completely. We need to know about Bmr and Bmi. So basal metabolic rate or body mass index, these two is about mathematical calculations. You must know that BMR is the rate that indicates the energy that is required by a human being at the resting phase to continue the functions, basic functions like breathing. So this is the amount or the rate of energy that is actually required of a person in case of rest. BMI is just a number that shows either a person healthy or underweight or overweight. It might be like the range is like from 17 or 16 to 40. So ideal range is 18.9 to 24.5, around that. So this BMI is another calculation, that is body mass index. It means the mass of a body divided by the height in meter square. And then we need to understand another biggest part of this chapter is digestions. lot of things. In case of digestions, we need to know what is the digestion systems of human body, what are the organs actually working here in case of digestions, what are the digestive tubes, what are the digestive glands, like we need to know about liver, pancreas, the functions of liver, functions of pancreas, and in these digestions, the digestions in mouth, digestions in stomach, digestions in small intestine, and digestion in large intestine. So it requires at least 5 to 6 class to make you understand at least this level. But if you go in case of A levels or HSC zoology or HSC biology, in that case digestions is another chapter where a lot of things was explained. Number of reactions, enzymes and hormones are related with this word. See about 9 disease caused intestinal disorder. In this case we need to know about peptic ulcer, gastric ulcer, appendicitis, worm related disease, diarrhea, dysentery, constipation. So this is a word that is actually the disease which is related with intestinal disorders. So now you know that the number of contents are there in this chapter. I'm just focusing on HSC level students, that what are inside the topic, but this is doable. Though you know that there are 14 chapters in your book, might be changes in the following years, but to understand this chapter we need proper concentrations and focus. So think about first content, which is plant mineral nutritions. You know that in our living bodies, like this human bodies, even all the living bodies, they need nutritions for growth and development, because at least respiration is something like functions which is going unicellular organisms, even multicellular organisms at least. So for that metabolism we need food, we need nutritions to maintain these functions, and that is why plant is also included, that the plants need these minerals, these nutritions from the soils, even from the atmosphere. Think about it. Plant minerals has been divided into 2 parts. Plant minerals has been divided into 2 parts. Why 2 parts? Because more than 60 elements has been discovered that is essential, I mean not essential actually, that is functional in the plant's whole life. But among 60, 16, that means 16 elements is essential, and among these 16, 10 is known as macro elements, and 6 among them is known as micro elements. Now you think, 10 macro elements, what does it mean? And 6 micro elements, it means based on the necessity, these macro elements is highly required. The presence of these macro elements is highly required for plants' normal metabolism and normal functions. These macro elements is also required, but is not that much priority. But these 10 elements is definitely required. And what are those? To maintain these names, 10 names, we can actually remember one clause, which is a MGK cafe for nice chops. What is this? We can say that MGK cafe. So cafe, there are some cafe which is very known for the chops. So MGK cafe is one of them. MGK cafe for nice chops. So following this clause we can find 10 names of elements which is actually essential for plants' life. So Mg stands for magnesium. Mg stands for magnesium, you know. K for potassium, Ca for calcium, Fe for iron. So we can say this is actually not Fe, iron. We must put the capital letter here. Okay, iron. And then N for nitrogen, 5. So carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, phosphorus and sulfur. So these 10 elements is macro elements. And then you see that micro elements, it means that they are actually zinc, manganese, molybdenum, boron, copper and chlorine. These elements are also required, but it's not much higher priority. But the higher priority of these elements, like magnesium, is definitely required for the chlorophyll formation. You know that chlorophyll is something essential elements for the entire world, because without photosynthesis, how come the carbohydrate will be produced? So as photosynthesis is the fundamental reactions that is happening in plants, that is for the chlorophyll, that plastate. So chlorophyll formation, magnesium. Think about potassium. Potassium is highly required for the opening and closing of stomata, and it also required for the cell divisions of plants, because when you will go to the HSC level biology, on that portions you must know there is a chapter called photosynthesis. On that part you know that when photosynthesis is done, water need to emit, and water emit through the stomata, and this closing and opening of stomata requires number of energies and number of reactions, and that is for potassium. So potassium is also helpful for the cell divisions, so that is required. Calcium is very important. Calcium is required because the cell structure. Iron is required because iron is the fundamental properties, not properties actually, fundamental elements for cytochrome, and cytochrome is sort of like electron carrier that will help in case of production of ATP and NADPH2. If these sentences and that I am explaining right now seems hard to you, you think that you will be reading it on the next class, because this is something actually written on your book, but when you read, try to understand that what you are reading and that is coming on your next just near future. Nitrogen, this is really essential. Nitrogen is another required elements for chlorophyll, because chlorophyll molecule forms by carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, magnesium. So these nitrogen requires, carbon requires, hydrogen requires, oxygen definitely, phosphorus and sulfur. You know about phosphorus? Phosphorus is actually, that is required for DNA formation, ATP formation, NADH2 formation in all cases. So whenever we talk about DNA, ATP, NADH2, you know that in all cases there are phosphorus. So when the formation of DNA, if you know the structure of DNA, so in that case nucleoside is bind with phosphorus, actually phosphate, to make nucleotide. So phosphorus is required. ATP itself, you know that adenosine triphosphate. So as the word phosphate, so phosphorus is required. NADH2, in all these coenzymes, phosphorus is required. Think about sulfur. Sulfur is definitely required. Without sulfur, some sort of metabolisms and other functions won't be in progressive way. So MGK, cafe for nice jobs, these elements are definitely required for plants' growth and development. If you think closely, there are a number of physiological processes going on in our body, in plants' body, in the living bodies. So these functions simultaneously happening, and it requires a lot of things. So these elements are doing these functionings into this metabolism process. Think about the zinc, manganese, molybdenum, boron, copper and chlorine. This is also, if you just put your eyes, the lines of your books, it's written that what are the functions of these elements. And if you see in the next page, symptoms of nutrition deficiencies is given. I don't know that how I will actually upload this tutorial, because it's a lot. It's written that there are the elements and there are some basic characteristics that if there is any sort of deficiencies, like whenever I think about the nitrogen, without nitrogen chlorophyll is not formed, and then due to the chlorophyll deformations, the leaves will become yellowish, and that yellowish of the leaf is known as chlorosis. So this chlorosis happens due to nitrogen, even if there is no sulfur of plants, then it's a disease like called dieback. So dieback is a disease that is formed due to the lack of sulfur. So there are other number of symptoms that is expressed due to the deficiencies of these elements. So that is why this is really important. So I'm just uploading this class to let you know that what are the contents that we need to understand. So if you see the next tutorials that I'm coming, this is number 1 tutorial, as this is food, nutrition and digestions part 1. So this is the main contents. The next tutorial I'm coming up with these things, and of course you must know that digestions, I must need at least 7 to 10 tutorials to make you understand what's going on. So whenever you read the study, I mean, so total part of plant nutritions, concentrate on the lines. It must be boring, like what is the deficiencies for sulfur, phosphorus, manganese, boron, chlorine. It might some match up, but if you do practice, I think it'll be better. So I'm coming up with the next tutorial with food ingredients, and then the process of digestions, Bmr, Bmi, ideal food pyramid, and the balanced diet. So see you on the next class. Stay close. Bye.